My name is Tamika, and I was sexually harassed by my landlord.
When I first met him for the property, I didn't know that this was going to happen to me.
I was backed into a corner, and I felt like if I didn't do that, then I was going to lose my kids.
The Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice is responsible for a number of things. One of these is investigating claims of sexual harassment and taking action in court to stop the harassment when appropriate. The Federal Fair Housing Act makes it illegal to discriminate in housing. Sexual harassment is a type of discrimination that is illegal. The Fair Housing Act makes it illegal for landlords, property managers, maintenance workers, security guards, loan officers, and others with control over housing to sexually harass tenants, applicants, or others. The Fair Housing Act applies and protects people both in private housing and in public housing. Our office learns about sexual harassment in housing in a variety of ways. We hear about it from attorneys, advocates, people who have been harassed, and from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. HUD also investigates claims of sexual harassment in housing. If you've been sexually harassed, there are a number of things that you can do. You can contact my office at the Department of Justice, and we'll call you back. We may conduct an interview, and from there we'll decide whether to investigate. We also look for whether there have been other people in your apartment complex or in the housing that you're in who've been sexually harassed. We may come out, knock on doors, send letters, and call them as well. You can also file a complaint with HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, if you've been sexually harassed. We are working nationwide in every state, and we're also in your community.
When I left through my divorce, I left everything, house, car, I just left with the clothes on my back. And so when I got approved in April, I called them, did all the paperwork for the housing authority, paid them their money, and then I moved into the apartment.
So I get the apartment. I move in. The first month he comes to get his rent. There it is. How big my breast is, how big my lips are, and I was like, stop talking to me that way and get out.
He could tell that I was in need of a place, and I was in desperate need of a place at the time because I was running out of time. He was using what he had and what he knew to get what he wanted from me, which was a sexual encounter. He asked me, could he have sex with me? And I told him yes, because I needed the place to live, and he would come by and knock on my door. Like I say, when he called, he would be like possibly outside, because by the time I hung up from him and maybe walked away from where the phone was, he was like maybe 2 or 3 minutes from the door, and I didn't have a choice. I had to do this. And I don't think he had to do it, but I had to.
I had gotten a letter from the housing authority saying that if I didn't pay them like $500, then I was going to be evicted. So I called my property manager, and I asked him, I said, I don't understand, like my rent's due, everything's been paid, I don't understand. And so he was like, well, bring it up here and I'll see what I can do as far as looking into it. And I said, okay. So I thought he was talking about like a charity or something that I could go to, but I didn't know exactly that he was talking about, having sex with me at first. I was like, no. And then he just pressured me enough to where he was like, well, what are you gonna do? He was like, I got the money, so if you wanna do this, he was like, if you wanna have sex with me, then I will give you the money. And at that point, when you're mentally going through some things, especially the things that I've gone through in my life, he knew about, and so he kind of played those strings, and I just felt like I was worthless at that point, so I just slept with him.
He came in, it could be a reason for it to get his rent or to fix or to talk about the unit, and he was talking, and I was doing something else. He was talking, and then before I know it, I heard his belt buckling, undone, rattling. I look up and he was exposed. over my head.
I did what he wanted because I know I didn't have a choice, you know, and he knew I didn't have a choice. You know, he knew I had to be out of there at a certain time, and he knew that I didn't have nowhere else to go. He knew I hadn't found anything else. I wouldn't have been talking to him. So at that time, at that point in time of my time of being out of there, he knew I was his only option. So it was like, you either do this or you're on the streets.
I came home and he was sitting on my porch. So I goes to unlock the door. It was already unlocked because he unlocked it. I asked him about it. He was like, no, I didn't unlock your door. It's unsettling because, like, I would never know. I would always be on alert. Like, when he go use his key or come, have he already been in my house while I was asleep or something?
So I just did not feel safe. I felt like that he had keys to our apartments. So if he knew I was alone, then something else would happen. So I did not feel safe. I didn't feel that my kids were safe. And so I just packed up and left in the middle of the night.
You know, at the time I thought I was the only one. You know, so it was like, who gonna be with me? Who gonna stand with me? Because, you know, I'm telling people, nobody rallying with me. Nobody's like, get them, you know. So, yeah, I was afraid.
No one would have done anything just because of who he was. Like, he was very well known. Like, he had so many different things that he was doing in the communities and also just inside of the housing authority. So I felt like if I went and said it to someone, they'd be like, yeah, we don't believe it, you know, and they would just sweep it under the rug. So I felt like I just would keep it to myself.
When we bring a lawsuit, we may be able to get relief and help for people who experience sexual harassment in housing. We may also ask to have the harasser removed from a position or ask to hire a new property manager so that the harassment stops. Our main priorities are justice and your safety.
Department of Justice sent me a letter. And at that point, I gave them a call back. And at that point, when they told me when I opened the letter and I saw what it was about, and I knew it was about him, then I immediately called them.
They were just, he made me feel like this wasn't okay and that I was still a human being. He respected me and he was just, you know, there to lift me up and be like, this is not okay. You're gonna be okay. We're gonna help and get you through this. Like, the support was there that I didn't have before.
They were so nice, and at the end I asked her, how did you know that he was harassing me? How did y'all know? She said, we believed you. When you told us your story, we believed you. I love them. I'm talking about, it feel like they saved me, you know.
They've really changed my life. You know, they made it easy for me because, like I said, I didn't tell anybody. So I was able to talk to them, tell them things that I couldn't tell anybody. They were just, they helped me. They were just there.
If I knew then what I know now, I definitely would have reported it to not only the Housing Authority, but the HUD investigator, Department of Justice. I would have reported it to someone that I felt could handle the situation and not just sweep it under the rug.
You have to speak out. It's a must. You know, I was afraid. I'm still afraid, you know, but at least I'm speaking. At least I'm getting him back, you know. I won't be a victim.
My advice is to please call the Department of Justice. They can help you. They will be there for you. They will be there with you every step of the way. Please, I advise you, please, I can't say it enough, please give them a call.
Women, you know, or men, should know that that the Department of Justice will help you. And it's what it's saying, the Department of Justice. You know, it's for everybody.
If you've experienced sexual harassment in housing, or you know someone who has, call our office at 844-380-6178 or email us at fairhousing@usdoj.gov. If you've experienced the harassment within the last year, you can also contact HUD to file a complaint at 1-800-669-9777. Open the door to justice. You should never have to choose between housing and sexual harassment. You have a right to feel safe in your own home.